Greetings folks, welcome back to Bob of All Trades. As the Director of Technology for Electronics, that's been official now for 1 year. If you didn't know that, now you do. That has been information I have stated on the channel in more ways than one. It's probably ideal that someone like me can give you a pretty fair overview and comparison between the newest MECH-17 that we have to offer. We have Intel version on your left and the Ryzen 6900HX version on your right. There are some very clear things stated on the website that may favor the Intel unit. There are some other reasons that will favor the Intel unit, and there are two reasons for sure why you would absolutely want the AMD model. With that said, let's go over all of these now, talk about what differentiates the two, talk about what makes them great, maybe some things that you and I don't like, and we'll go from there. Starting with the display. Both models feature a 16:10 aspect ratio, and the resolution is QHD+, so 2560 by 1600. 240 Hertz at around 300 to 350 nits of brightness, and the color calibration came in at around 97% standard RGB using professional color calibration tools. You're looking at 75% Adobe and P3, so just a pretty standard panel in that regard for the year 2022. The Intel version, however, does get G-Sync and Advanced Optimus. Unfortunately, we were unable to get that certified and validated for this. We would love to have it on there. It just unfortunately did not work out. FreeSync is still available on this model. Both of these laptops feature a MUX switch, so if you run this in hybrid mode, meaning Advanced Optimus, by default it will have adaptive sync with FreeSync on there. That's pretty good. Now, the IR camera above here with the 1080p webcam, so you have facial recognition. Again, 1080p webcam, it's better than 720p. It's still not amazing, right? You've got your cell phone cameras that use post-processing, and they just have a lot more going for them compared to what you can see on a laptop. It's better than 720p, but it's not going to knock your socks off. But it is full HD, IR camera on both of these. The same resolution display and brightness. The only difference is, again, we have Advanced Optimus and G-Sync on this particular model here. If you're not too sure what Advanced Optimus is, or you want to be brought up to speed on that, I will post a link in the description below for a video that I made a while back that talks about Advanced Optimus and what ultimately makes it great. All systems here will have the same GPU offerings, a 150 watt 3070 Ti, and 175 watt 3080 and 175 watt 3080 Ti. Now, as far as the rest of the internals, you've got two M.2 slots for storage. They will feature the latest and greatest PCIe Gen 4. If you opt for the PM981 Samsung drive, that is the commercial version of the 980 Pro from Samsung. It is ridiculously fast. And of course, you can populate two of those should you wish. It's excellent. Both systems do feature those options. The memory is DDR5 4800 megahertz on both systems. It's the fast memory, the 1RX8. These are very good and very reliable DIMMs. They're very fire and forget, which is really nice. So no differences there at all. What about the Wi-Fi card? It's Wi-Fi 6, the AX201 and the AX200. The only difference is the 201 works with the Intel chipset a lot better, so that interface was just sort of baked in. I'm not really noticing any real-world differences, and don't be fooled by it having one number higher. That's just simply stating that that is more of an Intel-specific product that, again, interfaces with the chipset. Now, the battery. Ooh, man, 99.8 watt hours. And it looks pretty small in there, but it's a relatively large chassis. What can I say about the battery life? Intel has, they got to play catch up, because this is one of these examples where Ryzen, if you want the mobility and want that battery life, you're going to get 5 to 7 hours. Some of you will probably be able to stretch that out much longer if you dim the brightness, you turn off the RGB, you're watching videos, sure, you're going to get 8+ hours. But realistically, you're using it, you're on Word, you're doing emails, you're not plugged in. I'm able to get around 5 to 7 hours. This is more like 3 to 4. Your mileage may vary. You may be able to stretch it out a little bit longer. You also may fall short of what I'm claiming here, and that's entirely possible. I don't know what you're doing with your laptop, but I do know that the battery life on here is worth about 25 to 50% longer unplugged than it is on the Intel. We've got high-powered machines here, high wattage. That's going to come with pretty beefy power supplies. So for the 80 and 80 Ti, you're going to have a 330 watt brick, which is about the size of my hand. That's pretty substantial. 280 watt brick and a 3070 Ti, which is just ever so slightly smaller than this. I will post a picture here that you can see the difference. We have a 230 watt, a 280 watt, and the 330 watt, and the gigantic lunchbox 330 watt that MSI still wants to use on their GT77 Titan, which is a massive laptop in itself. So at that point, what does it matter? We have a pretty small, physically small power supply for the rated PSU wattage. Now, another thing that the Intel model here has over the AMD is the BIOS features. Now, that's not necessarily our fault, as the AMD has not made tools available and options within the BIOS yet on Ryzen. It just doesn't happen, whereas Intel, it's basically always been there, and it's just a matter of unlocking it. We are an official PrimaMod partner. There is a Prima BIOS that will come installed on these before we ship them to you. And that's going to open up a whole bunch of options in there to tweak and tune should you see fit. Now, the laptop's going to run great out of the box. In fact, it's going to perform better than the AMD one. We are binning the memory through our own in-house testing and adjusting the timings on the Intel variant before we ship it to you, just to give it a little bit of extra something. A lot of time went into that, and it's been a lot of fun. But the tunability that you can get within the PrimaMod BIOS on the Intel solution is there. Should you wish to tweak it and tune it, go for it. I had a very difficult time bricking the device by tweaking the settings too far. What would happen is it would just offer a black screen, and then I would have to unplug the battery into CMOS. If you're not comfortable doing any of that stuff, there's really no reason to mess with this. We have it pretty well dialed in from the factory. Nonetheless, it is there. You also have Advanced Optimus, a whole bunch of other features that are going to be within this machine and its BIOS versus a very basic stripped down but pretty user-friendly solution. In here you still have MS Hybrid dedicated GPU. Both of these will feature the Q key function, which will enable you to use the button to the left of the power button to either cycle through the power modes or use it as a maximum fan. I like to use it as a max fan. Big fan of that feature. As I'm old school, I do like to have maximum fan capability at the push of a button. So pretty in-depth BIOS on this. You don't need to mess with it. It's there if you want it. This one is stripped down. What is available behind the scenes to unlock on this is essentially nothing. And this, there was a lot of stuff that we were able to have opened up for us and then tweaked and tuned and modded to where it would be a very good, solid product for the customer. So PrimaMod on this, isn't one on there. Does it really matter? Probably not, but I think it's cool that it's there. All right, now when it comes to performance and thermals and the liquid propulsion package and tuning, this is where, in my opinion, this is where we win. Stuff like this is why I felt very comfortable moving my family across the country to live and work for electronics. Let me explain. The owner of the company demands the most power that we can get in these things, and I think we've done a pretty good job at that. We've been bending the rules for quite a long time before I even got here, and it's nice to see that we have this level of performance. Now, make no mistake, you cram 175 watts of GPU power and 50 to 70, maybe even 100 watts of CPU power in this machine simultaneously. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to get hot. Laptops are only so big. There's only so much airflow that you can get through them, versus 2 generations ago, the same chassis had half the wattage and it was thermal throttling. Are we thermal throttling with maximum performance on air? Yeah, you kind of should be. If you want to maximize the performance from your machine, you have to be pushing it as hard as you can. Well, there's ways around that should you not want something that is maxing its thermals out, not even including the liquid propulsion package. So from a performance standpoint, when you let it rip, you've got Cinebench R23, Firestrike, Time Spy, Port Royale. You're going to see anything that's CPU bound is going to clearly favor the Intel solution. Anything that's GPU bound is either going to be a tie or favor the Intel solution when the CPU is being asked a lot of while in a GPU intensive environment. So if you're playing certain games, let's say Battlefield 2042. I know who plays that anymore, but I like to use Battlefield as an example because it's both GPU and CPU intensive. And the single core performance of the Intel solutions do a little bit better job of maximizing the GPU saturation and getting a little bit better performance, but ultimately you're going to get very similar performance on both systems. Overwatch was an interesting one because it doesn't really care that you have 20 threads to throw at it, but it does like that strong IPC, instructions per clock performance, that you are getting from the Intel 12th gen versus 6th generation Ryzen mobile. And you can clearly see that GPU saturation is hitting 99% on the Intel variant, which is right where you want it, versus it's starting to fall back a little bit on the Ryzen solution. Are you going to complain with 200 FPS anyway? I'm not, but I just want you to be aware that there's going to be some situations where both of these systems are going to perform basically identical. There's also going to be some where the Intel version wins, but you've got battery life that demolishes this one. Okay, great. Maybe your next question is, well, I see the performance here and I kind of get what you're saying. I get it, the Intel one's a little bit better. What about those temperatures? Well, everything that you saw was on air cooling. We're going to talk about the LPP here in a hot second. What I like about our products, I think more than anything, is the tunability within the software. So if we just go maximum here, maximum fans, no liquid propulsion package, you get some higher temperatures, you get a loud system as you can clearly see and hear. You've got the decibel meter. Decimal meter's a little close to the laptop, so it doesn't quite represent the actual decibels that you should be. It should be kind of tested closer to where your ear distance is from the actual machine, but you get the gist. Now if we take that same setup and do some wattage tuning, you've got something that performs almost as good, but it's significantly cooler. Not bad. Kind of like that. Now, if we introduce the liquid propulsion package, you can max it out, and you've got, what, 20 degrees Celsius cooler on the CPU and GPU. We're no longer maximizing the fans. We're just letting the thing automatically run, and it is so much quieter than it was before. And then you can tune it, should you wish, get even cooler temperatures. If you want to maybe adjust the voltage curve within MSI's voltage curve editor and lower the temperatures even more. These are all tips and tricks that I have been providing to the community for many years now. I will leave links in the description below. There's just a lot of tunability and options within these machines that bring something unique to laptop life that we've never really been able to have before, because previously we would have to download a lot of third-party software and disable things and tune things, and now it's kind of built right into the system, making it very convenient. And for those that want to run their systems on air cooling, well, now you can clearly see that you can do that just fine. And if you want to max it out, go for it. We've built the hardware so it doesn't pop when you max out the fans and the wattage. But if you don't like that it's as hot as it is, or you don't like that it's as loud as it is, you can freely tune that without sacrificing a ton of performance. And I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. And then when you introduce the liquid propulsion package, Well, you can even do that, but just more exaggerated. And to be able to have a laptop, whether you're on air or water, that can be quiet is really nice. And now I can play games using the speakers with the liquid propulsion package, or you can do this on air as well with the tuning, of course, that I've shown you. And I don't have to blast the speakers. I can run it at 50%, listen to my game, and not have something that sounds, kind of like a hairdryer that's parked right below my fingertips. That's pretty cool, right? Pun intended. So there's just so much tunability that you can do with these machines, and then you introduce the liquid propulsion package, and it cannot be beat. You can get temperatures now in the 50s on the CPU and GPU, just a little bit of tuning. Pretty crazy. Now, don't be intimidated by the LPP. Yes, we're putting water in the machine. It needs to be distilled. There is a breakdown and a tutorial on how to use this connected to your laptop, not just the MECH-17, but just anything that is LPP capable within our product line. Very easy to understand and use this product. Watch that video. It will help you out immensely should you have questions. Now, when it comes to just laptop life kind of stuff, on the go, usability, we talked about the screen. You're staring at that a lot, so that's pretty important. But what makes this a mech? Well, it's a mechanical keyboard. We have Cherry MX switches. First time in company history we're using Cherry, which is really cool. Very proud of that. These are Browns. They're a little loud though. Listen to this. It's got that sweet ping sound though. Oh, you hear that? That's so cool. But definitely louder than I think they should be for Browns. The function keys and the number pad is membrane. We needed to verify if another manufacturer was doing this as well. We were able to verify that same thing on the MSI GT77 Titan. So maybe that's just the way Cherry is allowing their customers to produce, their keyboards within laptops right now. I don't know. It's kind of unfortunate at first, but the more I use it, I really don't care. As a matter of fact, I think it would be really cool if there was a full membrane version of these, as I think some people may like that versus that noise. But damn it, when you game on this thing, it is so crisp and satisfying and precise. When you're strafing back and forth, it's really awesome. But it can be very obnoxious to people around you, so be mindful of it. Or don't. I mean, the choice is yours, or your friends, not mine. I like the keyboard, 1.8 millimeters of travel, very satisfying. It's like, I don't know, ASMR, man. It's like popping bubble wrap or something. The whole unit is aluminum. Softer touch on top. It's a big one though, 6.1 pounds, right? Pretty heavy, in my opinion. Trackpad, glass, massive. This is a huge trackpad. Love it or hate it, it is the way that it is. I personally do wish it was a little bit smaller, maybe like 60 or 70% of the size that it is. For some reason, it just bothers me the way that it looks, but I don't have any issues in use. You can disable the right side by double tapping there, or you can disable the whole thing by double tapping on the left and a little LED would light up. Not really too sure why you would want to disable that half, because now you're working in a very weird aspect, but oh man, that is super smooth. And it's got a very nice symmetrical click. I think the quality of this has really gone up. I do like it, it's just a little large. Now when it comes to port selection, this is where things get a little interesting. Now, as I said in the beginning, the performance of the Intel-based device is going to either perform the same as the Ryzen or better in some circumstances. But when it comes to battery life, it smashes Intel. Ryzen crushes it, which is a huge game changer. And I think a really solid and compelling reason why you would want to go for this. There's also a really, really good reason why you would also want to go with this, and that's when it comes to the port selection. Let me start with what's on the right-hand side. UHS 1 card reader, 2 USB-A's. And on the left side, Kensington lock, USB-A, and then a separate headphone and mic port. On the rear, you've got this little rubber grommet here, so you can connect the LPP, barrel power port, RJ45, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on this too. It's pretty fast. HDMI 2.1. Oh, we saved the best or the worst from last. Thunderbolt 4, USB-C. What Intel decided to do for their 12th gen mobile lineup, it's not just us, it's like this for all of 12th gen mobile machines now, is no longer connected to the display port, which then would connect to the NVIDIA graphics. It is now hardwired directly to the Iris Xe graphics, and that did simplify the production of this. There's no longer a dedicated chip. I don't know if they use Alpine or whatever they used before that was on the motherboard that would then allow it to connect to the dedicated GPU. So they've sort of simplified the production of this a little bit. But for those that want to connect their machine to virtual reality, you're gonna have to figure out how to do that with HDMI. That might work out great for you. I'm not a big VR guy. We do have a Quest 2 here, and it just really doesn't want to work with this how you would like. Versus this is connected directly to the dedicated GPU. Game changer. A couple years ago, people would ask about VR. But I mean, it is growing in popularity, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I was just playing on it 2 nights ago. It's hard not to smile when you are in that world, and these machines can do that. They have the USB-C, convert that to display ports, and you're off to the races. So, you know, external monitors that want to use that type of support, and of course, your VR headset, you have to go this route. So I prefer that connection. Those that like Thunderbolt 4, though, for data transfer, somebody who are used to edit a lot, that would be very beneficial for me, as it would help speed up my workflow. But having that connected the way I personally think it should be would have been very beneficial from Intel. But I guess I see why they did it. At least I think I do. So that's a huge pro for this. What do you want? Do you want something that is guaranteed to give you the same or better gaming performance? Does that amount even matter? What other differences are there between the two? Liquid metal was approved for the CPU and GPU on the Intel variant only. And there's non-conductive thermal interface material on the Ryzen solution. I almost forgot to bring this up because I'm not sold on liquid metal as much as I used to be, because of what these laptops are capable of, LPP aside. There's so much tunability within the software that I don't find the couple extra FPS or a little bit more sustained wattage to really matter that much anymore, because I can tune things the way I see fit. I think it's great that we have it approved on the graphics and, of course, Intel. It's also a lot easier to apply liquid metal and a safe barrier around the PCB and die area of an Intel processor. It's a lot easier to do this. We're not doing this in-house. We're having this done before we get it. And I'm actually very happy that it's not on these systems, because I don't think it needs it. And it's probably a little bit more user-friendly later on down the road if somebody wants to, you know, update their thermal paste. I used to do it yearly. Maybe overkill in some circumstances, but some of you are as nutty as I am, and it may be justified doing that. Taking these apart is a little bit more difficult. You just have all the screws at the bottom, but there are 3 screws underneath that grommet where the LPP goes in, so you do want to make sure you remove those. On this particular unit, the 3 screws that are holding the LPP grommet section kind of together are a, are a different length than the ones on the bottom panel. So you should be able to recognize that. Otherwise, once you do that, you can kind of pry away and the whole bottom panel comes off. So, gosh, you know what? I think that kind of does it. Hopefully you guys understand why I think these are great. We have a really good product that offers a lot of capabilities for a wide variety of user preferences. And that's just sort of bottom line in my opinion. Having this LPP is a game changer. How you want to use it is entirely up to you. The fact that you don't need it at all, as I've shown you in the video, hopefully gives you a better understanding as to ultimately why I love this company to begin with, is I can now do the things that I have always talked about doing and have shown users how to do with third-party software. It's just built right in-house. Very easy to use. I love it. Hopefully you will too. All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for having me back. Check the comments below. I'm sure we're going to have some fun conversations down there. The description will provide links for the products. Pricing's going to vary depending on sales and giveaways and whether or not the LPP is included. There's just a lot of stuff that's always changing. So let's stay up to date. I will do my best to make sure that everything is up to date within the description, and let's have fun in the comment section. All right, folks, that's it. I'm Bob of All Trades, and I hope to see you soon.